give us approval or something.
Of course. Duane is recording the call. Actually, doesn't even, it just tells me that you're recording. It doesn't ask. So that's great.
That's good. I don't want your approval anyway. Okay, so, you know, it is such a beautiful film. It is so perfect in every way
Oh,
to make you go full screen, and I can't even pull that off right now. And I feel like, you know, when we do this, I feel like, you know, I have so many questions, but I feel like you just told me everything. And like, I almost feel like, you know, like this reverence that I don't want to like make you talk anymore.
no, it's fine. It's what I made the film for. I feel like there's so much, you know, the film deliberately tries to create a lot of other questions that aren't in the movie. So
let me ask you this about kind of reliving this moment through your, first of all, through the production process, then through editing, then through exhibitions, and how have you dealt with that? And has it been hard? And have there been rewards? And what have been? I mean, how is that? What's been your reaction to that?
Of course, you know, I think anyone who makes you know, a documentary or a memoir, they have to figure out how to both live with the content and work with the content. And so I think for me, shooting was fine. I always, like, I had a fantastic collaborator in my cinematographer, Alan Jacobson. You know, we sort of think the same way about images. You know, the same with all of my staff and the audio mixer and the color and all that stuff. But the most difficult part, I'll say, to be honest, was post-production, because I moved to Copenhagen in 2015 to cut the film. I had a 2.5 hour rough cut that I put on a shelf. It will never be seen by anybody. And I started over. And the difficult part was seeing my mother every day in the edit. And then, you know, when we shut down, you know, the edit for the night, I would go home and, you know, bike back to my little, you know, apartment, and her voice would be gone. And then the next day, her voice would be back. And then at the end of the day, her voice would be gone. I eventually got used to it, but when I think back on the entire process, believe it or not, I mean, you know, I know that the film looks like all of it would be hard, but I think that the most difficult part was having her literally disappear at the end of every workday. That was pretty tough.
That's really interesting. You're in Copenhagen. We've recently had several Danish filmmakers kind of do this series. We had Janus Metz a couple of months ago, and we also, it's amazing, right? And we also had a movie called The Last Race that was here. That was also edited by Danish. It was an American film. In fact, a Long Island film. That was at Sundance. You need to see it. It was edited by
interesting
Danish team as well.
Nice.
And so what made you go out there, and when did the tone and the visual sort of style and the mood of the film take place? Was it in production, or was that something that evolved in the post?
You know, the visual style was, you know, set in stone before we even started shooting. I connected with Alan Jacobson via a mutual friend, the filmmaker Marshall Curry. And, you know, you can see that there's rigorous formalism in the film. There's a lot of stillness. There's a lot of, you know, there's not a lot of camera movement. Alan and I really, you know, thought through, you know, how we were going to shoot the film. I came up with rules. You know, we tweaked those rules together, and then we stuck to them for 7 years of production. And so the interesting thing about the way that, you know,
Yance, we lost you. Oh no. Hello.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
So we had this very, you know, we had a very disciplined shooting style, and we, you know, kept it consistent over 7 years. You go to Denmark, and talk about people who are consistent, and who understand the benefits of rigor, and the, you know, just the what can be told in moments of silence and stillness. And it just was a fantastic match for the editor, Yanis Jensen. Yanis, his work has won the Palme d'Or, his work has won an Academy Award, and he was the person who was best for the film. He also happened to be the person who was available. You know, in August of 2015, when I knew I needed to start over, my producer, you know, we were looking for an editor. Everybody was finishing for Sundance, like everybody's finishing for Sundance now, right? But I didn't want to wait, and so I wound up in Copenhagen. You know, like literally, I met him in August, and I was in Copenhagen by the middle of September.
Okay, guys. How many minutes? About 10 minutes more or something like that?
You know, what is it, 11 to 5? Let's go 10 minutes. I think you guys, you should ask any questions that you want.
We've got a great crowd, and I was so rushed. I'm going to turn this around. You guys all cheer and wave. And then...
Oh, wow.
There was...
you guys get to see my messy home office, huh?
You've seen it in audiences, and the tension in the audience is so powerful. Why don't you guys come up to you with questions? All right, there's not a ton of you, so just not a ton of time for questions. So just come on up. Don't be shy.
Any questions?
Just one more while you're coming up. All right.
So even if they seem like they're not, any questions are totally fine.
Got a couple of people coming up, so I'm just going to let them go because I could talk to you. I would love to talk to you for hours and hours, but they're going to say their name.
Okay.
And that's the way.
Excellent.
Hi, I'm Zach.
Hey, Zach.
I really loved the film. I want to thank you for it. I thought the most powerful image to me was near the very end when you were laying on the yard that your brother had died on, and I was wondering, what kind of went into that choice, and through that whole process. I just thought it was very powerful.
Sure. Well, thank you for that, Zach. I really appreciate it. First of all, thank you for watching the film. I think the thing about Strong Island and the thing about my brother's death is that none of the crime scene photographs, none of the autopsy photographs were made available to me by the Suffolk County, the coroner's office, or the Suffolk County Police Department, even though that material is not legally, secret material. So after submitting FOIAs and being denied, I realized that I was going to have to create the images that I didn't have. And the most important image for me was my brother in the final moments of his life. And so I have a performance art background as well. And I also knew that I couldn't ask anyone else to play my brother in that moment. And so based on Kevin's, interview and the autopsy report, I put myself, on the ground, and I held myself still, and I held my breath for as long as I could. Just to try to create a sense of, there's a suspension, right? In the moment in between something happening and, death, there's this intangible thing. And that's really what I was trying to convey. And also, I was just honestly trying to create an image I know I'll never see. And that for me was really important.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zach.
Hi, my name is Zoe.
Hey,
thank you so much. That was beautiful and extremely powerful, and I can't even express how much I loved it. But
thanks.
My question for you is, did this bring about any closure, either for you or your family? Because it's mentioned in the film that as a family you didn't talk about his death. So I'm wondering if this brought about any conversation or closure that you needed.
Sure. I think that closure is a funny term. And I think that I think that closure is possible, like when somebody, when someone's death is explainable or expected, or at the conclusion of a long life. Those things are natural. I think for my brother's death, because it happened at such a weird time in his life, and my parents never expect to bury a child. No one does. That, you know, for us, and I think for a lot of families, it's not really closure as much as it is conversation. And those conversations began as a result of making the film. And that's one of the greatest gifts that I think I was able to give my mother and my sister, and frankly myself. And now I get to talk about, you know, issues that sort of surround the film, and not just what happened to my family. And that's one of the things I wanted to do with the film was, yes, to show what happened with like one particular circumstance, but also to make it really clear that my family is just one of many families, you know, in many, you know, situations in many places in the country, that this happens to. And I wanted to create a space for people to consider what the experience is like.
Wow, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for your question.
Hey, I'm Josh.
Hey, Josh.
She took my question, so that's kind of not fair.
Okay.
But, I didn't have other. That was a tough movie to watch,
Yeah.
in a good way. I love documentaries, and I love doing, and it kind of gave me a sense of a bigger purpose of documentaries. I love how people tell their stories. The purpose of the long shot. You had many shots where it was just one spot, and it was held out for a really long time.
Yep.
And at first I was like, that's
What's
really long. Yeah, I was like, that was really weird. But then throughout the shot, I wanted to know, did you plan on that in the beginning?
Sure, I did. You know, I think that one of the things about filmmaking and image making that really appeals to me is giving an audience and giving a viewer a chance to actually look. And from my perspective, as someone who really closely observes the world, is that the longer you look at something, the more you actually see, right? And I think that there is a difference between an image registering with you visually and you coming to understand what you're looking at. And so all of the long shots, you know, are meant to hold your gaze and actually give you a chance to look and see all of the things that are in the room, or, you know, sort of going from frame right to frame left in that one, you know, dolly shot. I also wanted to create a sense of space. You know, I sort of feel like when cameras move through houses or move through, you know, sometimes they move through films so fast that you only have a sense of movement. You never have a sense of landing somewhere. And I really wanted the film to feel like you landed in my family home. And that's why we held so many shots for so long. And, you know, I literally, my average shot, my average take is about 3 minutes long.
Wow. Yeah, that was good. It was such a good thing. I had okay. I can't ask all my questions. Can I ask one more? Can I go on the end of the line? Is that cool? Okay, I'll talk to you in a second.
Okay. We're good, Duane. We're good.
Hi, I'm Jojo. So this was like a very raw, very emotional, very open, very honest film. And so I was just kind of thinking, just like the main question, I guess, was like, how were you able to, I guess, delve into that? Because it is really hard sometimes to be like that open and honest, not only with yourself, but also with an audience.
Yeah.
And so how was that, like being able to kind of delve into that raw emotion?
Sure. You know, first of all, thank you for your question. It's so hard to do anything that's based in life or sort of, you know, life adjacent, right? It's so difficult to put that into your work. I really got a head start because I kept a production journal. And I literally just put, you know, I put every and anything that I was thinking about the film or anything that came to mind while I was writing about, you know, the film into that journal. And it actually, you know, it got me into the practice of writing about the things in the film that were going to be difficult to, you know, confront, but that practice made it easier. It didn't make it easy. It made it easier, you know, to put in the film, and it makes it easier to talk about it. I mean, but you know, when the lights first came up at Sundance in 2017, and I knew I was going to have to do a Q&A about everything that had just, you know, been on the screen, I didn't even know if I could talk, because, you know, it is so revealing, and it's the kind of thing that I'm sort of used to now, because I realize that the person in the film, you know, that's definitely me, but I've also grown and matured and changed as a result of releasing this film. But I think that you find courage that you don't think you're going to have. And I think that also I let myself be afraid at the beginning of the process, and allowing myself to be afraid was really good, because it took the burden of sort of, you know, this ridiculous kind of like, you know, indestructible bravery. I'm going to go face down the justice system, you know, bravado. It let me not even, you know, think about picking that up, because that's such a huge thing. All I wanted to do was make a film about my family. And that's where I focused. And I think that's what made it, that's what really motivated me to keep going, right? Because it was hard, but I knew I knew why I was doing it.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you for your question.
Hi. My question might be a little bit simpler. I feel like I might be missing something. I think I know the answer to my question, but I just wanted to get your take on as exactly why you chose the title Strong Island for the name of your film. Why Strong Island as the title of your documentary?
Sure. What's your name, first of all?
I'm Preston.
Hey, Preston. Strong Island is literally just slang for Long Island, New York. Every kid, it comes out of hip hop in the early 1980s, and if you Google Strong Island, you'll get Strong Island Animal Rescue and Strong Island, plumbing and heating supply. It literally was just a placeholder for the film for many, many years. And when we started post-production, I was like, okay, great, now we have to figure out a title. And everybody sort of was like, they were like, there's no way you can change this title. And I was like, what do you mean this was always a placeholder? And they were like, no, it's the title. And so it's the title. It literally just is the nickname for Long Island.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Tyler.
Hey, Tyler.
First of all, I was able to come late. This is my second time seeing the second half of the film, and it's really beautiful. And Jojo kind of stole my question. I wanted to ask about vulnerability, but I thought you answered that beautifully. My question is really, after watching this film, it's easy for me to feel like I'm just a white male filmmaker. Anything I say might feel really frivolous next to this. But my question is how so much of the film is about giving people who didn't have a voice. And I'm just wondering, do you have any advice about how, as future filmmakers, we can give people voices and not miss any opportunities to do that?
Right. That's a great question, Tyler. It's funny. I think that in the documentary world right now, for a long time, I've been in the documentary world for 17 years. I think that people often look, it's like they miss the forest for the trees. Like people go out and make prison films every year, and they make, underadvantaged football team films every year. And I sort of feel like, there's content right in front of your face if you just look around, and I feel like no matter who you are, that if you're looking for stories that resonate with you, I think the whatever you define as your community and wherever you call home, I think that's actually the first place to look. And I think that it requires maybe changing your perception about what home is, maybe, looking for people that you don't necessarily notice, maybe asking yourself questions about, home and what it means to live where you live that you haven't necessarily asked before. But I think that, as a filmmaker, if you're interested in giving people a voice, or helping people, magnify their voice, right? Because people have a voice, they just don't have a platform.
Sure,
So if you're interested in helping people have a platform that allows them to, be heard, I would encourage you to look around where you are, because there are plenty of people where you are who have things to say but no means to say them.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, man.
Hey, it's Josh again.
Hey, end of the line.
We're getting pretty close. This is good.
Nice.
So, okay, script writing. Did you write a script before this?
I did not. I kept a production journal.
Yeah.
And the thing, you can see me reading in the cut, and that's because I wasn't able to get out the version of events when I found out about the call without sort of getting choked up. So I read from that page in my production journal, but otherwise nothing was scripted.
You've done other documentaries before. Do you write scripts for those? I think it's funny because people say, like, you got to write your script, and I'm like, how do you do that with documentaries? And that's the kind of stuff that I like to make.
I don't write scripts for the films that I make. I write questions.
Yeah.
And I think that on average, the number of questions going into each interview was like between 90 and 100 questions.
Yeah.
And that's because you have to, get people comfortable with you, give them a chance to be nervous, give them a chance to settle down. And then you have to have an arc to your questions. And then you have to think at the end, if you're writing those questions, what haven't I remembered? So I think that, your subjects write their own script, right? They bring what they need to say to that interview, to that interaction. But I think that it's really important to go into interviews having really thought through what you're interested in knowing. And then when you're in the interview, obviously you have to listen to what's being said and ask really great follow-up questions. But, that's all I do. And if someone wants to call that writing, then, I think I'm one of the most prolific writers in documentary, but, I don't write anything in advance.
Cool. That was very, very helpful. Thanks. I don't know what that was.
Of course.
Thanks so much for talking about that.
Of course.
I
Thanks,
think that's
Josh.
the last question. So
Okay.
we'll see you around then.
Okay. Take care.
Is there anyone else? Hey, Nancy, you've got an early flight.
Yep.
Thank
7
you
a.m.
so much for sharing this beautiful film and your beautiful family
Thank you,
and
Duane.
this amazing experience and this incredible journey with us.
Thank you.
It's just, every time I see it, I'm just amazed at this film. So
Thank you.
exceptional job. And thank you again, everyone.
you.
Give them a big hand.
Thank you so much. Maybe I'll see you in Park City in January.
And travel safely.
Thank you. Good night.